One, two, three, Bermuda. That's right. Only two more games left until this tragedy of a season named 2024 Chicago Bears campaign will be finally officially over after losing to the Detroit Lions on the lakefront yesterday by the score of 34-17. In NBA action, the Chicago Bulls split their weekend series with the Boston Celtics, losing big time despite young rapper Megan Thee Stallion sitting in the house. In college basketball, the Fighting Illini get a big win against Mizzou and St. Louis, while in baseball, moves are being made. Are the Chicago Cubs the next team to follow with another big move? We'll give you the answers. The college football playoff kicked off, and let's just say we're not surprised by the results. And we'll salute a Chicago-born baseball Hall of Fame legend. That, in time permitting, Old School TV Monday, and a whole lot more as Second City Sports, the Monday edition, right before Christmas starts right now. Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. You're live in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss Lakeem McGee, which is she. Sydney Brown here, you know that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kingdom McGee on the Twitter, executes again, IG.
Be sure to download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at Warb Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're ready, please give Warb Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion, do not return our extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. You can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. The keynote will get the up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given Lakina full powers to give you fools the Billy Beer Boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, we must remind you whether you're watching us live or on a replay. Shout out to the replay game on our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Don't you ever forget, we are here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And you know we will provide.
Hello, everybody. You is on the best here on Second City Sports, of course. If you're watching us or listening to us for the first time, if you're off on your Christmas or winter vacation, hello, what's up? Spread the word about us. But of course, we're gonna remember one of Chicago-born, an all-time great in baseball who passed away over the weekend. We'll talk about him, of course. Old School TV Monday. And we'll give a couple of shout outs to another legend who she's having her own battle with cancer right now. And of course, a good showing by Tiger Woods but it was his son Charlie that stole the show or the PNC championship. Also, too, of course, the Bulls, Celtics get their revenge against them for their loss over the weekend. Illinois got a nice big win against a rival in their annual rivalry matchup. And so much more, of course, week 16 in the NFL. But of course, Sid, we gotta start with Bulls. I thought we should have the taps music going in the background because 34-17. Yeah, the Lions beat the Bears as we all the three of us and our girl Christine Mack from KXRB predicted. Hey, well, she's probably still asleep, but she's out in Hawaii right now. But yeah, 34-17. The Lions beat the Bears. Bears go down to 4-11. They're now 0 in their last 11 against divisional opponents. Jared Goff had 3 TDs, 336 yards. 34 yards for Caleb Williams and 2 TDs. He now passes the 3,000 yard passing mark. That's the highest among the highest for the Bears. I think only Eric Kramer and Jake Cutler are the top 2 there after him. before him, I should say. Jameer Gibbs 109 rushing yards and a TD, rushing TD for the Lions. Jameson Williams had a big TD catch, 143 receiving yards. I want to say Brown added TD as well. Keenan Allen had his best showing in the last this whole slide that the Bears been in, 141 yards and a TD there. Sid, I'll admit I kept this game in the background. And I was watching mostly Red Zone for during this time. We'll get to the rest of the games in a second. So, Sid, what you think about this game yesterday?
Well, I wasn't surprised at the performance, unfortunately, by our Chicago Bears because they were outmatched and outclassed. And Detroit, despite all their injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball, they came in here and did what they have to do yesterday to keep up to clinch that top spot in the NFC, which they haven't done yet. But I know their fans took over Soldier Field, and rightfully so, because the Lions were better than the Bears. Outside the second quarter, that's nothing that you can write home about if you're a Chicago Bears fan. Yes, Caleb Williams played well yesterday. Majority of that was in garbage time. Roman Duze had a good game despite that fumble. You mentioned Keenan Allen's statistics. Okay, DJ Moore, I like it, but I don't need to see more of your antics anymore. I do not want to see him in the backfield anymore. He's a wide receiver, not a damn running back. He's not Deebo Samuel, okay? Number 3, the defense. Lakina, I was watching Fox 32 Chicago Sports Tonight last night with our good buddy Luke Canellis. And him and his team put up a great statistic about the Chicago Bears defense. We all know that Matt Eberflus is not a great head coach. He never was. He'll never will be. Not in the NFL anyway. But he is a very good defensive coordinator. We said that when he got the job a couple years ago. Here's a statistic for you and those fans out there to ponder. Through Thanksgiving, before Matt Eberflus got the boot, the Bears defense were giving up around 19.5 points per game as a defense. Mm-hmm. Since Matt Eberflus's departure, you want to guess how many points they're giving up per game?
Oh, you want to out like 35 or something like that?
Damn near close, 30 points a game. So that missed Matt Eberflus, at least in the defensive department, by the way. Number 2, the offense, 12 points, 13 points, 17 points in their last 3 games. What does that tell you?
Oh my God, that was just awful, terrible, or Charles probably would say terrible, terrible, terrible.
Yes, and here's another terrible statistic. Cole Kmet, I know he scored a touchdown yesterday. Thank goodness you found it because I thought he was MIA. In his last 4 games, he only received a total of 6 targets going into yesterday's game. What does that tell you? No one knows what the hell they're doing. I know we talked about Thomas Brown, the interim head coach, stepping in a tough situation. He was part of the offensive staff before this. And yes, he's part of the problem why the Bears are struggling where they are right now. And we said this, Lakina, even if Thomas Brown did go 5-0, which we told you wasn't going to happen, he wasn't going to go 4-1 anyway. But realistically, you thought the Bears would have had a shot to win at least 2, maybe 3 games, and he would have had serious consideration for that Bears job. But the way this team's been playing, and this started way before Thomas Brown took over the job, and we chronicled this throughout the last month and a half or so. Thomas Brown is not a head coach. I think we all know that. The players have checked out. And just like the 2022-2023 White Sox, Lakina, it needs to be a big old enema up there at Hallis Hall. You're going to get a new coaching staff. That's not the question right now. How many players that really don't want to be here? You need to get them out. And number 3, and I think we brought up this question a couple weeks ago. I'll bring it up again. Who is the real leader on this team? Are you going to tell me DJ Moore? No. Are you going to tell me Keenan Allen? He just got here. Who on the defense is a real leader in that locker room when stuff goes awry? And you mentioned on our show last Friday, DJ Moore, whether he meant it or not, saying the word vacation. He's thinking about vacation as the regular season winds down. If he had a strong group of leadership players who are leaders in that locker room, he would have been accountable. I'm talking about DJ Moore. He would have been accountable for what he said. He shouldn't have said that. I don't care what the hell he meant by the word vacation. It needs to be a big enema in that player's locker room. And he needs to have it immediately after the end of the season.
You listen to Second City Sports on Chicago. Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Recapping Lions, Bears, the dumpster fire that was. I mean, look, I know. Look, that whole thing with the wide receiver thing, they Adunze, he fumbled. I don't know what they were trying to do there, but yeah, I mean, he's never been, like you said, no, not everybody can be Debo, so I don't know why they decided to do that with Allen and Adunze, and then another thing too. I mean, it kind of feels like the defense is checked out. I mean, as Dave Watson would say, Jared Goff's jersey was a little too clean, and this shows you the disrespect. I mean, the whole like rumble stumble play that the Lions did. They were where you heard everyone said fumble, and then everybody kind of went down, and Gibbs went down and such. So that just shows you the disrespect of how the Bears defense is, and they've mentally checked out. Oh, and it gets even better for the Bears. They get to play on Thursday against Seattle. That's 3 days and 11 days. Whee!
In a pissed off Seattle team too.
We'll tell you why. Just after the break, but But angry Seahawks. Well, again, going back to this, but look, Jared Goff was only sacked once, and that was kind of like early on, but. That was kind of like in the middle of the second quarter, which was becoming, the game was getting out of hand at that point. But it's just like, look, I'm not gonna sit here and say that, look, okay, I'm glad Caleb, you got 2 touchdowns, but again, it would be nice if we do this like early in the game where it's already out of reach, instead of already out of reach, and it's in garbage time. Like it hurts me to be impressed, and we know the Detroit defense, they're down to like their 3rd or 4th stringers and such, and it was just like it's just like at this point. I'm sorry to everyone on Amazon who have to watch that Bears team against the Seahawks on Thursday, but I digress. But yeah, I mean, look, as for the Lions, look, they, it's a franchise record, 13 wins. They're still right there in the thick of it, and not only the NFC North, but they're right there in the driver's seat in the NFC. We'll tell you why after the break, but it's just like 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks ago, talk about this whole thing, and we'll talk about the whole Ben Johnson thing. Look, he was impressive yesterday, but I think I see him as kind of like Matt Nagy, I should say 2.0, but we'll get to that at a later time. But it was just a clinic yesterday by the Lions against the Bears.
Yeah, one more note before we had to break for the bottom of the hour. I was watching Chicago Sports Tonight with our guy Luke Canellis on Fox 32 last night. Our good friend of the show, Mr. Jason Leach, the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Bears beat writer, he said that he went over to the Lions locker room after the game, and he asked the players and the coaches about that Jared Goff play that you referred to earlier, about that fumble play. Originally, they practiced it about 3 or 4 times last week. The original play was for Jared Goff to actually fumble the football and then pick it up and do what he had to do, which they did the rest of that play. Jared Goff told Ben Johnson, no, I'm not going to actually fumble the ball. That's not a good idea. Now, what they end up doing yesterday, that was the plan. So you know who bid all that on that play? TJ Edwards.
Yep.
Jonathan Owens.
Yep.
And the one who helped put the foot in the grave of this Bears season in Washington a couple months ago, Tyreek Stevenson. Go look at the play. Go look at the all-22 film, which will be, I believe, released later today. Tyreek Stevenson got caught with his pants hanging down, too. I'm just saying.
Figuratively, of course.
Right.
We'll take a really quick break, of course. We'll preview, we'll recap week 16, of course, some upsets and a little change at the top of the playoff picture. And we might, preview Bears in Seattle. I said we might. But we are going to do, we'll do. I guess we'll do a couple of the picks for the Christmas games because they're going to be coming up on Wednesday. So we got a lot to do still in the NFL Power Hour with Kingdom McGee, Cindy Brown, Second City Sports. Sports of Chicago, more NFL talk coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the Monday edition. We're live in the Living Color right here on Sports Soul Chicago. I'm Sid the Kid, which is me. Lakeem McGee to my right is she. You can follow yours truly on my left, only if you're watching on the TV screen. You can hit us up at Sports Soul Chicago's Facebook. Before we do that, you can hit me up on the social media on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kingdom again on the Twitter, Executive again on IG.
You want to continue the Bears discussion and the recap on yesterday's Week 16 action from around the National Football League? You can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. The kid will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid. Recapping the rest of the NFL Week 16, we're going to start on Saturday as the Chiefs held off the Texans 27-19, I should say, and a TD pass from Pat Mahomes. Of course, I guess including a Russian TD showing that his ankles is just fine. Thank you very much. Also to CJ Stroud losing effort through a couple of TD passes, but also a couple of interceptions. Who spectacular throw and catch by Tank Dell, who unfortunately ended up tearing his ACL. So he's done for the year, and you can tell the emotion, and that literally kind of knocked the wind out of the Texans, because I really feel like, because it actually cut the lead at that point. So I don't know what would have happened had he had Dell at not sustained injury, but it kind of felt like it kind of sucked the air out of the Texans, and now the Chiefs were able to hang on once again.
Yeah, the Texans actually competed with the Chiefs, which I kind of expected. Let's not forget Dalton Schultz, the former Dallas Cowboy, now the tight end for the Texans. He had a good game as well. CJ Stroud was found him as a go-to weapon. Joe Mixon, I know he had 57 yards and 14 carries, but he was starting to get Gordon a little bit. But the Texans got a little bit too pass happy, in my opinion. I thought they needed to keep that Chiefs defense on edge. They didn't do that. But like you said, after Tank Dell went out with that dislocated kneecap injury, things just went down here for Houston, and the Kansas City was able to take advantage.
It was the Chiefs were able to now once up close to again that number one seed in the AFC. In the AFC North, Ravens pulled away from the Steelers 34-17. Lamar Jackson threw for 3 TDs, and Derrick Henry was a story here though. 162 rushing yards. He got the chains moving. for the Ravens. On the flip side for the Steelers, 2 TDs from Russell Wilson, 317 yards. The rushing really wasn't there for the Steelers for the most part. You can tell that they missed George Pickens. Of course, he didn't play because of a knee injury himself, and a couple of costly fumbles also too by Russell Wilson. Actually, one of those fumbles actually ended up going the other way as the Ravens were able to go down the field, and that kind of changed the game.
Yeah, also too, Russell Wilson did pass for 2 touchdowns off of 22 of 33 passing, but like you said, if you really look inside the numbers, just look at the performance. He did not have a good game. Like you said, he did not benefit from a good running game. But on the flip side for Baltimore, Zay Flowers 5 catches for 100 yards. Lakina, did you see that one catch? I forgot the defender's name from the Steelers. He grabbed him by his legs. Zay Flowers bounced out the outside, shut it away from the tackle, and went for another 5-10 yards. That was an amazing catch and run by Zay Flowers. Baltimore, as I've been saying all year, they always have those 2 or 3 games where you watch their offense. It looks like you're watching paint dry or pulling teeth, whichever phrase you want to use. But they really put the clamps on the Steelers, especially in that second half on Saturday.
And also a pick 6 from Marlon Humphrey, his first this season. So yeah, I mean, they did it all pretty much for the Ravens, and Steelers still hold the tiebreaker because of weird like tiebreaker scenarios. Like even though they are tied both in the division and in the standings, but like I said, the tiebreaker stuff kind of gets a little confusing. Rams and the Jets. The Rams, they're now in the driver's seat, winning 5 in a row, and now that they've 19-9 over the Jets. Matt Stafford, not a big showing by him. Only 110 pass yards and a TD. Kyrie Williams was story 122 yards and a TD there on the rushing side. On the flip side, though, Aaron Rodgers, 256 and a TD. Breece Hall, 52 rushing yards. But just not a couple of fumbles by the Jets. They had it kind of like right there, but 13 unanswered by the Rams, did them in the Jets. I mean.
Yeah, outside of Devontae Adams' first quarter touchdown, the Jets offense played like trash, and they deserved their loss. Like you said, for the Rams, an early start on the East Coast didn't bother them. They're actually one of the few teams that excuse me, that have done well on the East Coast in the last few years and whatnot. So the Rams, as I know, a few people predicted them to go to the Super Bowl. It's like, I don't know. I still don't believe they're a Super Bowl team in my eyes, but they could cause damage in the playoffs if they get everything right. So the Rams are in full control of the NFC West race. We'll get into the rest of the division coming up in a couple of minutes. But the Rams are playing the best out of those other 3 teams in the division right now. They're 5-3 away from SoFi Stadium. If they continue to play like this for the next couple of weeks, they can be a dangerous team come playoff time. We said that last year. They got beat by Detroit in the wild card route, but I think they could be even better this year.
Yeah, I don't think anybody had that when they played the Bears a couple of months ago. But might have times changed. Now let's go down to Atlanta real quick. Atlanta took care of business 34-7 over the Giants. Michael Penix Jr.'s first start had an early interception, but settled down for 202 yards. But it was really the defense that kind of helped them out there. Both Jesse Bates III and Matthew Judon each had pick 6s as the Falcons took care of business beating the Giants.
Yeah, shout out Jeremy Bates for paying tribute to Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, who the house that Deion built, not the Mercedes-Benz Dome, but the old Georgia Dome with that dance. But Matthew Judon, we haven't heard from him all year. It's finally nice for him to show up, and nice for the Falcons defense to show up. Bijan Robinson on the flip side for the Falcons offensively, 22 carries, 94 yards to 2 rushing touchdowns. The Giants look like crap. They play like crap. And just like the Bears, they're looking forward to vacation after the season. Maybe your head coach, Brian Dable, will be going along with them with the pink slip and link card, but we'll see about that. But that was a very important win for the Falcons. We'll tell you why coming up in just a bit.
Well, thank you for that little teaser there. We will tell you that. But first, one of the games of yesterday, the Commanders came back and upset the Eagles 36-33. They were down 13 going into the fourth quarter, and this was long after Jalen Hurts had to leave, due a concussion. But Jaden Dales, got the ball with less than 2 minutes left. No Hail Mary, but a nice pass to Jamison Crowder, and then so with 6 seconds left to give the Commanders that come back, snapping the Eagles' win streak at 10. And it was his fifth touchdown pass of the game. And it was just like, it was just ended up being like it was kind of like you thought that that maybe the Eagles had the game in hand. Kenny Pickett did what he could to kind of hold down the fort, but 22 unanswered points, 22 points, I should say, by the Commanders in the fourth quarter, pulled off the upset.
Yeah, despite the Jalen Hurts injury, strong start by the Philadelphia Eagles, but it was their defense who had the interception, Lakina, on the possession before. You thought they wrapped up the game, but they just couldn't pull it away. You mentioned Jalen Daniels drove the ball down the field for the game-winning score. Saquon Barkley, 29 carries, 150 yards, and 2 early touchdowns. He did all he could. Like you said, Pickett didn't play that badly, but it was the Eagles defense that couldn't come up with that one more big play and down the stretch. And shout out to the Commanders, now 1-4 against teams above 500 on their schedule this year.
Also, a big drop by Devontae Smith that would have sealed that win for the Eagles. Daniels incidentally is the first QB from Washington to throw 5 TDs. You got going back to when Mark Rippon did it. He was actually, if you saw, he was actually in attendance yesterday. I think he was in the press box with the guys and the Commanders helping to call a game there. Of course, Rippon was the MVP that year's Super Bowl. Not saying that the Commanders are going to win the Super Bowl, but just a little stat. Did you know there? But nice win for the Commanders, and that knocks the Eagles off the number 1 seed. So the Lions, might have a shot at the number 1 seed, but we'll also tell you another team that might have another shot at it in just a second. But first, the last of the noon games, Panthers came back and actually Arizona came back first. Then the Panthers, scored a touchdown overtime. Of course, that's all you need to do. Chuba Hubbard got the rushing TD as the Panthers beat the Cardinals. Now, with the Commanders win, that eliminates both the Cowboys and the 49ers from playoff contention. The Cardinals losing knocks them out of playoff contention. And as I said in our group chat with us and our girl Christina from KXRB, I'm not picking Arizona ever again, this season.
Now I know what I felt like early in the year when I thought that they could do something special, but I digress. But the Panthers actually they've been playing well for the last month. They just weren't rewarded with a victory. But yesterday they finally got their victory, their 4th of the year. Who would have thought, Lakina, that the Panthers and the Chicago Bears would have had the same amount of wins at this point in the season? No one would have thought that. No one would have thought that. But Arizona, Kyler Murray did not have a great performance. James Conner was MIA in the running game. I know he led the team in receptions with 449 yards receiving, but he was MIA in terms of running the football, and that's what happened to the Cardinals in their defense. They were MIA too in overtime.
Well, and I remember Connor got hurt. I think he hurt his knee. Not serious, but he did hurt his knee there in that game, and that kind of did them in as well. So, we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, both teams, Cardinals are now eliminated. Now, the Battle of Ohio, shout out to Blaze Real Deals who had to call this game for CBS, but it was all Cincy, 24-6 for the Bengals. And, Joe Burrow, 3 TDs, 252 yards there for him. Chase Brown had 91 rushing yards. On the flip side, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, 2 interceptions. It was sacked 5 times. Now, the Bengals are trying to hang in there. They're at 7-8, but a lot has to happen in front of them if they want to sneak into that playoff spot in the AFC.
Yeah, shout out to that Bengals defense. You mentioned with creating those 2 interceptions, and they sacked Robinson a couple of times and holding the Browns to 6 points. But Joe Burrow, as we said before, we'll say it again, he's having a tremendous year. I believe he has 39 touchdowns now, if I'm not mistaken, but he's not going to be considered for MVP because the Bengals got out to such a horrible start this year. But Jamar Chase is still there. He'll probably get his contract extension after this season. Chase Brown, the former Fighting Lion standout, he's your running back for the future. The Bengals have everything offensively. Now, can they do it against the Chargers coming up on Saturday? We'll preview that game coming up on our next show on Friday. But the Bengals have a tough stretch these last 2 weeks to end the season. Can they make the playoffs? Sure, they can. Like you said, they're going to need a lot of help. But first, they got to get past the Chargers. Not the Chargers, but the Denver Broncos on Saturday. But that game will be at home for them.
All right. Another team that's hoping to keep their playoff hopes alive is Indy. Indian is somewhat of a thrilling game, oddly enough. 38-30. Colts over the Titans. This is by the Titans scoring 15 points in the fourth quarter, but it was kind of in garbage time. It was just, they they're too big of a hole there. Jonathan Taylor, if you had him in your fantasy team, he had in the playoffs, he had a nice showing, 218 yards, 3 TDs, and he didn't drop any of them. So that's that was a nice little redemption there. 131 yards and a TD and an interception for Anthony Richardson. Mason Rudolph, 2 TDs and 3 interceptions though, and just couldn't they just couldn't overcome that 24-point second quarter, I should say, by the Titans. I mean the Colts.
After that slow start by the Colts in the first quarter, you mentioned they exploded in the second. Anthony Richardson did not play badly, but he was benefited by a great running game by Jonathan Taylor. He kept both hands on the ball like he promised last week, so good for him. The Colts, you could argue they could be 8-7 or 9-6 if a couple of games would have went their way, including last week at Denver. So the Colts, they are who we thought they were. They're a mediocre team. They're still hanging around for whatever reason at 7-8, but we'll see what happens with them in the next couple of weeks.
All right, now to the 3:00 games of the Second City Sports on Chicago. Keenan McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Speaking of the sandwich last, the Vikings outlast the Seahawks 27-24. 13. They're now 13-2. Of course, Kevin O'Connell becomes the first coach from Minnesota to have multiple. He did last season. 246 yards and 3 TDs for Mr. Sam Darnold. 67 rushing yards for Mr. Aaron Jones. 2 of those TD catches were to Mr. Justin Jefferson, who had 144 rushing yards. On the flip side for Seattle, Geno Smith 314 yards and 3 TDs. But also 2 interceptions that kind of killed the Vikings' momentum. And to the Seahawks' credit, they tried to do what they could, but they just couldn't overcome those 2 interceptions by Geno.
Yeah, I didn't think that Geno was going to play yesterday, but he did. And like you say, give him an A+ for effort. But, those critical turnovers just came to bite the Seahawks in the butt. And also, too, they missed Zach Charbonnet in the running game yesterday. That was also another big blow for Seattle. On the flip side for the Vikings, nice dancing coordination. I forgot what movie that was from.
Camp Rock.
Thank you.
Yeah, you gotta be you gotta be a nice kid to know that one. All you,
we're old.
Yes, we are.
But the Vikings defense stepped up big, especially late in the stages of that game. The Vikings, who would have thunk that they had 13 wins? Had 13 wins at this point in the season? No one did. You could be most die-hard hardcore Vikings fan. You didn't expect this team to win 13 games. It was supposed to be about J.J. McCarthy in the defense, and look what's happening now. I'm not going to say this Vikings team was better than the one that surprised everyone 2 years ago with Kirk Cousins at 14-3, but I think this is well-balancing that the one that surprised people a couple of years ago. And if the Vikings get the right matchup, they could be a dangerous team come playoff time.
And they could still get the number 1 seed. They got an outside chance of that as well now. Incidentally, of course, there was the Packers game. They play the Packers on Sunday. That game has now been flexed. That's now going to be the 3:25 game on Fox because they got the doubleheader this week. Of course, flexing Dallas and Philadelphia out, and I'm sure Tom Brady really doesn't do another Cowboys game this week, so I'm sure he's probably very happy with that. But so Vikings, we'll see if they can keep it going. Now, off to Buffalo, of course. I know a lot of folks here in Chicago got this matchup. Bills. They overcame a slow start, but they did come back and beat the Patriots, holding them off 24-21. Not a great showing for Josh Allen, but still, a TD, rushing TD. James Cook had the rushing TD, 100 yards, 154 yards, and a TD for Mr. Josh Allen. He struggled a little bit. He had an interception as well. Drake May had 2 TDs and an interception. For them, the Bills are 12-3. They gotta hope that the Chiefs lose their last 2 in order to get an outside shot at that 1 seed. I'm sure they're still smarting from the but the Bills still trying to keep pace at the very least.
Yeah, after a slow start, the Bills were trailing by a touchdown at recess, but they woke up in the second half. They let James Cook in the rushing game. That's what they need to do come playoff time. Sean McDermott, head coach of the Bills, are you listening? I don't need Josh Allen to rush the ball 25 times. Stop it. But I digress. But I don't know if you could accuse the Bills of playing down to the competition yesterday. Give the Patriots credit for playing hard, but whatever was said in that locker room, the Bills woke up in that second half outscoring. New England 17-7. So the Bills got the important win, which was the most important thing. It did stop their streak of scoring 30 points or more because they scored 30 plus points in their previous 8 straight games. So that streak did stop, but the Bills are looking strong as we head down towards the end of the regular season.
I mean, they got the win, so I guess that's all you can really ask for. Like you said, I think they might have been playing out their competition a little bit. You can tell the defense were a little bit lax earlier, but they got it together, so that's the important thing now. Well, I spent too much time on in this game in Vegas. The Raiders outlasted Jags 19-14. Aiden O'Connell 257. Mac Jones 247 and a TD in a losing effort. Tank Bigsby had a rushing TD. Amir Abdul also had a rushing TD for the Raiders, so they get their 3rd win of the season. Okay.
Who cares?
Yeah, I'll say ho hum. Miami beat San Fran 29-17. Mr. Tua, of course, still getting better and better. 215 in the TD. Devin Kane had 120 rushing yards in the TD as well. The flip side, Brock Purdy, I know those Toyota cars would have came in handy for him. 313 yards and 2 TDs. And their reception, of course, they couldn't get the rushing going for them. He was leading rusher 26 yards, much to his chagrin there. George Kittle had 106 yards. Debo had a TD. The 49ers now 6-9. They've been eliminated from playoff contention, but the Dolphins are 7-8. Again, like Cincy, they gotta keep winning and hope a lot of things happen in front of them to get a chance at the playoff spot.
If it wasn't for Tua's injury early in the season with his concussion, the Dolphins will be leading for one of those 3 wild card spots right now. You saw what they did yesterday, as you mentioned, came with Devin A-Chain with his great rushing performance yesterday. The reason why I was celebrating because I was the only one out of the 3 of us that picked the Dolphins to win this game. I know the 49ers, as you mentioned, they were eliminated from the playoff contention when they took the field, but they still played hard. But Tyreek Hill had an early touchdown, which was an amazing catch and run. I know you were worried about him last week on our show, but he did show up yesterday. And the Dolphins, the defense did the job, especially late stages of that 4th quarter, to help really seal the deal. So the Dolphins still have a fighting chance, but they also have a touch race these remaining 2 games as well.
Yeah, we'll get to that on Friday. The Sunday Nighter ended up being a thriller. The Cowboys, even though they were eliminated from playoff contention with the Commanders winning, they did, held off the Bucs 26-24. Cooper Rush looked like early Tony Romo with 292 yards and a touchdown. It was really the defense for CeeDee Lamb had 105 receiving yards for them. It was really the defense for the Cowboys. They had Jordan Lewis had a key interception, but the Bucs had their chance to get to a field goal if Baker wouldn't have taken that sack in that last play. I know you don't want to take a set there, but they still had about a minute and 35 seconds left, so. You could have set something up, clock the ball and, try yourself for at least get, close to field goal range. But yeah, because of that loss, now the Falcons are now, because remember, the Falcons beat the Bucs in both their meetings. So now they're in a driver's seat in the NFC South.
Yep. And also, too, don't forget about Rashard White having that fumble on the Buccaneers' last drive as well to seal the deal for the Cowboys. Tampa, they had their chances. Bucky Overing looked strong in the Buccaneers running game early, scoring the touchdown. And shout out to, I'm kind of jumping in here to our next segment a little bit. Shout out to, I believe it was Sterling Shepard. He had his 2 daughters on the broadcast when Sunday Night Football does the introductions. It was a nice move by him. But Tampa has some work to do. They got to win their remaining 2 games of the year. Hope the Falcons lose one of them, which is very possible. But Tampa just had to take care of their own business and hope that the Falcons lose one or both their last 2 games to clinch the NFC South.
Yeah, Falcons got to go to Maryland to play the Commanders, and the Bucs they host the Panthers at home, but that's not a gimme. So they've got a pretty tough stretch as well. So we'll see what happens there. And okay, our studs and duds for Week 16.
All right, my first stud will start in Chicago. Jahmyr Gibbs of the Detroit Lions, 23 carries, 109 yards and a touchdown as the Lions rout the Chicago Bears, 34-17. RIP Les Grobstein. My second stud will go to Jonathan Taylor running back of the Indianapolis Colts. 29 carries, 218 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He held the ball with both hands on all 3 of those touchdown runs as the Colts keep their slim playoff hopes alive, beating the Titans 38-30. And my third stud will be Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings. 10 carries, 144 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns as the Vikings beat the Seahawks 27-24 in the Pacific Northwest.
All right, my 3 studs are the Vikings, not just for that cool Camp Rock celebration. Of course, it was a generational thing, but they did hold off Seattle. Of course, like I said, Kevin O'Connell becomes just the first Vikings coach to have multiple 13-plus wins. Of course, I said they won 14 a couple of years ago with Kirk Cousins, the quarterback. Let's see here. Our second says Carolina. I mean, Bryce Young's looked really good. Another 3 TDs. Of course, Chuba Hubbard. They have a little bit of a future over there. The Panthers, they can make a couple of changes. They can be right there. They're thinking for the NFC South next year. And Baltimore, I didn't have to go crazy watching that Baltimore Steelers game. They actually did play pretty well. They got a pick 6 from Marlon Humphrey. And look, the Steelers are still ahead right now, but they did clinch a playoff spot, and they're still right there in the thick of it in the AFC North.
All right, my 3 duds are as follows. 1, CBS / the NFL. Chicago did not get that doubleheader because the Bears game was playing on Fox. But Lakina, thank goodness we can watch other games via NFL Red Zone and subscribe to the NFL Sunday Ticket. Yours truly was watching that Philadelphia-Washington game via this computer screen live. So I'm not too upset about that. But I know some people were in Chicago, so I had to give that out there. My second dud, it goes without saying, the New York Football Giants and the New York Jets. They'll share the second stud of both those 2 trash New York football teams. And my third dud will go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That loss last night could be the ceiling fate for them for this year, but they still have 2 games remaining, so we'll see what happens.
All right, real quick, my 3 duds. I think you just stole mine. Great minds, Tampa, especially that last play. Like, Baker, you should have taken the sack, dude. You should have taken the sack, honey. You should I don't know why you didn't take the sack there, but I digress. Devontae Smith, catch the ball first, then run. Like, we've seen it happen too many times where the guys are thinking about the run first before the catch. So let's think about that. And unfortunately, that loss might cost them a chance to get a first round bye. And my third dud, I'll say the Giants and you know what? I'll say Arizona. Come on, Arizona defense, really? I'm not picking y'all no more. I told our new my new friend Nick King, who works at the ABC affiliate out in Arizona. He was actually at the game because he's from Charlotte, but I teased him because it was a little bit cooler over there. But even still, I mean, Arizona, but even still, Arizona, you're just like, what happened? You had a shot at perhaps maybe being in the driver's seat in the NFC West. Now you're not going to be going to the playoffs, so you're going on vacation too in a couple of weeks. So you get my dud, Arizona. Sorry.
All right, in the final game tonight, we'll have the New Orleans Saints traveling to Green Bay to take on the Packers. That game can be seen on ABC and ESPN starting at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. The Packers, if they win, they'll clinch a playoff spot with 11 wins. Lakina, real quick, Mr. Ant Moss is his name. He's checking in via the YouTube. He says, with this draft coming up and it being a heavy on the defensive line, do you feel like it's better to go early with the first and maybe the second pick spending on defensive linemen? We'll see what happens. We have a long way to go before the draft, but I think one of those picks should be spent on the offensive lineman. I don't know if you're going to spend your first round pick on the offensive lineman, but you have, I believe the Bears as of right now have 2 second round picks. One of them should be on the defensive lineman, and the other one, if you don't trade and get multiple picks, then the other one should be get a defensive pass rusher to go opposite of Montez Sweat. We've been saying that all year. It has to happen. Maybe it'll happen this upcoming draft.
Well, my thing is, do you trust Ryan Poles to make a good pick? Because here's my thing. I mean, he's now 2-15 against NFC North teams. Remember when he said, during his press, we're going to take the North and not give it back? Whoops. That's right up there with being selfish and undisciplined. That's what Mark Trestman said. But is Andrew Boone's really that big of a deal for that Bears D line? Like, really, are we really saying that a second year guy is And
apparently
then your
he is, because of the even though the run defense has been a problem all year, it's gotten worse since his injury. And I was just saying the facts.
Yeah, but even still, I mean, that O line, Magaje didn't even play yesterday, especially after Braxton Jones got hurt. Well, best wishes to him with the ankle injury. He's done for the year. But it's just like again, we'll talk about that another time. But yeah, I don't think Pohl. I think Pohl should go too. I'm sorry, but
Now, I was glad you trust to select the next head coach, but in your estimation, the word is no.
Nope, I don't. Sorry.
Okay.
Real quick with our these Christmas games, will be on Netflix. You got the Chiefs and the Steelers, and you got the Ravens and the Texans. Just for we won't count these games because it's going to be on Wednesday, but I'll say the Chiefs and the Ravens just for these two games, and Christine also has the Chiefs and the Ravens as well.
Give me Houston and the Chiefs.
Ooh, Houston with the upset. Okay, Christmas upset. All right, Aunt Mess, don't be don't be a stranger. Keep keep commenting. We'll put your comments up, and anybody out there, make sure you tell everybody about the show too, Aunt Miss. I mean, we definitely could use the support.
Yes, hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 is coming up next as you listen to Second City Sports Monday edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago. The Bulls get trashed in front of Megan Thee Stallion as the Boston Celtics get their revenge on the Chicago Bulls. We'll recap the rest of the weekend in the NBA. A couple of baseball moves to review with you guys. The college football playoff, the results, not surprising, but some of those games were, be honest with you, watching paint dry. And we'll salute Ricky Henderson in time permitting Old School TV Monday. That and a whole lot more as you join us for hour number 2 of Second City Sports. You're live in locked and loaded in 11 color right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're so
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on the Monday edition. You're live and in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. You know that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at CKid80. Once again, at CKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Keenan McGee on the Twitter, execute again, IG.
As we dive into the Chicago Bulls and the rest of the NBA and a little Major League Baseball for this half hour, if you have any questions or comments for us on those subjects, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakino, get them up on the screen for you.
All right, off to NBA we go, as Sid just said. As we thought on Saturday, we, as expected, we knew the Celtics were going to come back and beat the Bulls, and they did. They pulled away from them 123 to 98. Jason Tatum had triple-double, 43 points, and 12 assists, and I believe 16 rebounds. Well, 15 rebounds, I'd say, and 10 assists. He's actually the just the second Celtic to have a 40-plus point triple-double, joining Larry Bird, who did it way back in 1992. He's also the first Celtic to have more than 10 rebounds. I think Larry only had like 11, I think, that day. Only had 10, I think, that day. But yeah, 43 points for Tatum. He took over in the third quarter. I think he scored like 12 points, the 30 points that Celtics scored in the fourth quarter, I should say, to seal the win there for them. And of course, the flip side for the Bulls, 19 points for Vucevic, and 10 boards. Zach LaVine, 14. Io struggled, only had 7 points, and the bench really wasn't a big help for the Bulls. But even still, I mean, it kind of went out as we were predicted on Saturday.
Call me crazy, Lakina, and I've been hard on this guy for the last couple of weeks. I know he was injured late last week, earlier this week, but Josh Giddey, who's currently out, can you say that the Bulls really miss him? I think in a way you have to say that they do. I know he was starting to come on offensively. I've been harping on him over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and he was starting to come on, and now he's injured. Patrick Williams, he's still trying to work his way back into basketball shape. But once the Bulls get a guy and two here back off the injury list, another guy goes on. It's just hard to develop that chemistry. It's hard to develop that rotation and get used to your teammates' habits because one guy's coming in, one guy's coming out. But regarding the game on Saturday, Boston, they are the better team in the Chicago Bulls. We all know that. And rebounding, the Celtics had a plus 16 advantage, 59-43, and a plus 7 rebounding advantage, offensively 17-10. So you have to rebound the ball in this league aggressively and consistently to one of the ways you have to win this league. As we said for the last 3 years, Lakina, the interior defense for the Bulls has been terrible. You saw that on Saturday. You didn't see it that much on Thursday when the Bulls stole the game up there in Boston. But Boston, as we expected, they got their wake-up call. They came into United Center, controlled the tempo from start to finish, and they were the better team. There's what else to put it. They were just a better team.
All right, they come back tonight and they play. They host Milwaukee at the UC, and I know it's always one of those two teams. Battled out, of course. Giannis and of course Dave as well. They've kind of gone up and down. Since winning the NBA Cup, they did beat Washington on Saturday, so they took care of business there. Detroit upset Phoenix 133-125, despite 43 from Mr. Kevin Durant, but. Just when you thought that maybe the Suns are starting to kind of get it going, and they go into this little, 14-13, they would be out of the playoffs right now. Book didn't play, of course, so that didn't help them. Bradley Beal had 26 points, but and all 5 stars were double figures for the Suns, but the Pistons were just too much for them.
Yeah, what's going on in Detroit? The Lions are winning. And maybe the Pistons trying to catch a little bit of a bug too. I know they have a new coaching staff, and I know that a couple of players, including Jaden Ivey, are rumored to be traded. But this young group is, despite all the foolishness going on the outside, starting with something new, they're playing competitive basketball. As the great Bill Parcells always says, you are what your record says you are. And the Pistons, I know they're overachieving a little bit, but they play some exciting basketball. I'm not saying they're going to make the in-season tournament at the end of the year. I wouldn't be surprised, but I want to know how long they can keep this up.
Could be interesting there. San Antonio should say no trouble with Portland. Victor Wembanyama had 30 points there. Quentin Grimes led the way for Dallas as they uh, beat the Clippers pretty handily, 113-97. These are Saturday's games, mind you. The Knicks beat the Pelicans, and Golden State got the best again. The second time in a row they beat Minnesota 113-103. Steph had 31 points. He was 5 for 6 from 3-point range, so that was a big help for them as they beat Minnesota at the Target Center.
Yeah, we're gonna get a few more of these performances from Steph Curry between now and the end of the year. As we said before, it's all about the supporting cast for Golden State with Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, newcomer Buddy Hield, Draymond Green. He's their emotional leader. He can hold it down defensively. He doesn't have the offensive skills like he once did during those championship years. So, if the Warriors will have to have any shot in participating in the postseason, you gotta have to have 2 or 3 other guys to help out Steph Curry because he cannot do it every night anymore.
Cleveland, no trouble with Philadelphia. Utah beat Brooklyn. Memphis beat the Hawks. Orlando got some bad news. They did win. They did beat Miami, but they got some bad news about Mo Wagner. He's done for the year. It turns out he has an ACL injury. And when they thought that it was actually nothing serious, but I guess they went back in, and it turns out he has a torn ACL, and now he has to have surgery. Now he's done it for the year.
That's a damn shame too, because I know
Yeah.
Pablo Banchero's out now. I think he's supposed to come back soon, but Mo Wagner, y'all know he was one of the most surprising young players last year. He helped Orlando get to the playoffs last year and drag Cleveland to Game 7. Now he's going to be gone for the year. What kind of moves will the front office of the Magic will make at the trade deadline? We'll find out soon.
Yeah, 35 points for Cole Anthony as the Magic upset the Heat. Lakers got a nice win in an early matinee in Sacramento, 103-99. LeBron had 32 points. De'Aaron Fox had 31, but I guess Anthony Davis' wife trolled him after that win. I guess because I think she's from Sacramento, so I guess she trolled him. He didn't have his best game, but even still, they got the win, so that's all you can ask for if you're the Lakers. Yesterday's games, there were only 3. Houston, Indiana, and Denver both won their respective matchups yesterday. And on Friday, Philadelphia, 34 points for Embiid as they beat Charlotte. Cleveland, I should say, beat Milwaukee. Spida, Donovan Mitchell had 27. And OKC handled Miami, holding them off 104-97. Jalen Williams had 33 points, a season high for him.
I want to go back to the Western Conference just a second, Lakina. We talked about, excuse me, we talked about the Houston Rockets being this year's version of OKC. We saw what happened last week in the NBA Cup where the OKC Thunder beat the Houston Rockets. It was a little testing between those two teams at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, another team that people are not talking about is the Memphis Grizzlies. I know Zach Edey's been up and down this year. I know he missed a few games due to injury. So did John Morant. I know Morant's back now, but Memphis was up there a couple of years ago atop the Western Conference before the whole gun foolishness with Ja Morant. Do you feel like this team is back to that form, or are you going to give them to at least the end of January? Because they are playing some good basketball. They're up there in the top half of that Western Conference. Do you think they can sustain this?
Yeah, Beatrice is like you said. It's going to depend on Ja staying healthy, everyone else staying healthy, and I think that's really going to be the key here in Memphis. I would say the same thing about Houston too, to some extent. They're out there. They're third right now in the West, and I kind of feel the same way. If Fred VanVleet, if they keep him healthy, I think that definitely could help them, down the line. Should they get one of those top 6 spots? So I think it's a little bit early though. I think we're not even halfway through the season. We're only about a little over a third now, but I kind of think let's wait. let's wait till after we're going to the Christmas Day. We'll get to the Christmas Day games in a second here, but let's like I always say, let's just wait and see how everything else kind of goes.
Okay, and before we get to the rest of the schedule for this coming week in the league, I was reading a couple of articles over the weekend, and of course, there's been the big talk in the NBA now with the NFL taking over the NBA's special day, which is Christmas. The people are starting to complain about the ratings. Of course, we all know that the new NBA TV deal will start next year with Amazon Prime, Peacock /NBC, and of course with ESPN /ABC. LeBron James gave a comment, said there's too many teams are taking too many damn things. That's one of the reasons why people are not tuning into the NBA right now. Some people have been saying this for the last 10, 20 years that the NBA should start their season on Christmas Day. Folks, that's not happening. I know some people want to say, well, they should shrink the season to 65 games. No, that's not happening either. Lakina, give us your thoughts on why the ratings are down at the start of the year for the NBA.
Yeah, I think it could be a lot of reasons. I think the season started like right before the season started before Halloween. One, and you're right in the middle of NFL and college football season. 1, 2, yeah, you can definitely say that the lack of promotion. I think that's really big. I don't the NBA doesn't want to admit it, but I feel like a lack of promotion, especially you've got guys like LeBron and Steph still doing their thing, but some of the other up and comers like you've got SGA and John Moran. I mean, you got to think that that's playing a big part as well. I know people want to say that, oh, it was because of the election, maybe, but I think that's just an easy excuse too. I think there's not one thing, and also too like a lot of these local affiliates. Hello, here in Chicago, most of us can't watch Bulls games at the moment, so that's another reason.
The hell with that antenna, according to Lakina.
yeah. But I mean, I think that's another reason why, because I'm sure the Rays aren't very good for some people because there's no really for a few of these states there's nowhere to watch these games. So I think it's not you can't really pinpoint just one reason why the Rays are down. I think it's just, I know people will say, oh, the in-season tournament and blah blah blah, but I would say, look, it's all kind of like it's all counterintuitive. I mean, there are different reasons for different regions of the country, so you can't really just pinpoint on one or two particular things.
I think another factor into this is the style of play, and I'll be honest with you, Lakina. We all know that this is a global game. That basketball is a global game, and we get that. In particular, the NBA, and I think they're trying to appeal to that market. But when you have players and teams playing that style, taking 3-point shots over easy 2-point baskets, I have a problem with that. Now, am I clamoring back to the days where final scores were 80-68 watching Miami and New York back in the day? No. Am I clamoring for those Bulls Jazz finals? Great moments, but remember those teams both struggled to score in the 80s. Remember that time?
Yep.
And let's not forget about the 2005 NBA finals. Those are great defensive series. No, it was watching paint drying, you fools. I digress. But I think for me, there's no balance in the NBA anymore. Physicality is long but gone. Everything's about offense. I love scoring just like the next person, but where you watching almost every other game, a team scoring over 140, 150 points a game, and that's your final, and they're playing like playground basketball. In my personal opinion, I think it's a problem.
Yeah, it really is, and I think it's definitely one of those things where you just wonder, like, check a threes like Steph. I mean, not everyone can shoot like Steph, and that's another problem too. But yeah, I mean, like I said, you want to go to days in the 80s where like the physicality and the defense, you don't want to do that either. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, I think there really is can't really pinpoint one thing, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting once these games go on Amazon.
Yeah, our guy Ant Moss is checking in. He says ratings. I think he meant ratings are down in because they are soft. It's not like the Jordan Bird era. Yeah, I know people are referring to that too. I saw Magic Johnson. He was on one of those FS1 debate shows. He was talking about there's no true rivalries anymore. Bird and Magic, they respected each other, but when they got on the court, they hated each other. Using that in air quotes, of course, in the proper context. You had the Bulls and Pistons battles in the late 80s, early 90s. You had that rivalry between Isaiah and Jordan, Lambeer and Pippen, and some of those other guys. Of course, we mentioned the Heat and Pacers earlier, Heat and Knicks in those 90s playoff series. So you are missing the element of that with the players being buddy. You don't have that fierce competition. That part I do miss as well. I know I sound like the old guy, but I don't know what you can do to correct that. But I'm trying to convey here, something has to change. What, I don't know. There's a lot of things you have to change, but like you said, it's not just one thing is going to fix this problem.
All right, maybe down the line we'll talk about that on our mid-season preview special coming up in February. I think we need our expert panel to have they're going to have opinions about this, so we'll see about that down the line. Now going to this week's game is a short week for the NBA. For the most part now. Monday, you got a full slate tonight. You got Houston and Charlotte. You got Utah and Cleveland. Utah starting their East Coast trip, out for the
They
holidays.
probably got their multiple game winning streak last week. So congratulations to them. Even though they're one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah, but I think everybody has won a couple of times. Boston, Orlando. The first game of the NBA TV doubleheader, you got San Antonio and Philadelphia, Embiid versus Wembanyama. That should be interesting. Minnesota and Atlanta.
You sure about that?
Well, it depends. I guess we'll see which Philly team shows up, I guess. Minnesota and Atlanta. Brooklyn and Miami, Toronto and New York. Of course, we talked about the Bulls hosting Milwaukee at 7 o'clock. On CHSN. If you have it, Clippers and Memphis. That should be Clippers and Memphis. That should be an interesting one. Washington and OKC, Portland and Dallas. A good one here. You got Phoenix and Denver. That should be a fun one. And the second game of the NBA TV doubleheader, you got Golden State hosting Indiana, and you've got the Lakers hosting Detroit.
Speaking of old rivalries from the late 80s, sure missed those days. I'll go on YouTube to watch those games again. Now, Wednesday, Christmas Day. All these games can be seen on ABC and simulcasted on ESPN. Starting at high noon Eastern time, 11 a.m. Chicago time, we'll have the Spurs and the Knicks. Victor Wembanyama making his Christmas debut at MSG. At 1:30, we'll have Minnesota at Dallas, rematch of last year's Western Conference Finals, followed by Philadelphia, Boston at 4 o'clock. 7 o'clock in prime time, we'll have LeBron and Steph one more time. I think that'll be the best game out of the group, just in my opinion. And followed by Denver at Phoenix at 9:30. That's all Christmas Day games can be seen on ABC and ESPN.
All right, Thursday, you got the Bulls going at Atlanta. That I'm sure that'll go to overtime like it usually does when those two teams play. OKC in Indiana, that's going to be the first game of the NBA TV doubleheader. So in case the Bears Seahawks game is a dud, you guys can go to NBA TV and watch that game. Miami and Orlando, Battle of Florida, Charlotte and Washington, Toronto and Memphis, Brooklyn and Milwaukee, Houston and New Orleans. The second game of the NBA TV doubleheader, Utah and Portland. All right. Detroit, continue their West Coast trip as they face Sacramento at 9 on Thursday.
All right, and that's your NBA schedule for this week. As you listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City, Lakina here with you on this Monday edition, our last show before the Christmas holiday. Lakina, we have a couple minutes left. We'll go to baseball real quick. The Cleveland Guardians traded first baseman Josh Naylor to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Christian Walker, who had a nice year with Arizona, everybody thought he was going to go to the Yankees. He signs a 3-year, $60 million deal with the Houston Astros.
Well, that should be good news for you White Sox fans. Naylor's out of division. Yay. So
yeah.
You guys should feel pretty good. Oh, look, Sox fans should be listening. You'll be feeling pretty good about that. You have to deal with him anymore. Unfortunately, Carlos Santana did sign a new deal with the Guardians. So sorry about that, folks. Walker Buehler, apparently the Dodgers didn't even make him a qualifying offer. He's going to the Red Sox in a 1-year deal. Jock Peterson, he's going to Texas on a 2-year deal. Andrew McCutchen, he's going back to Pittsburgh on a 1-year deal.
He just won't give it up.
No, he won't. Eloy, well, he loves it there, so I guess Eloy, he gets a minor league deal with the Rays. Sean Manaea goes back to the Mets on a 3-year, $75 million deal, and this is a tough one for Cubs fans. Cubs were acquiring about Luzardo, but unfortunately the Phillies get him in a trade with the Marlins.
We'll see what happens with Eloy. You said it's a minor league deal, and Tampa, they won't be playing in Tropicana Field this year because of those 2 hurricanes back in October. So I think they'll be playing in there. I think their spring training facility. I'm not sure. I know they're having stadium issues. They were having it before the hurricanes, but they're having stadium issues right now as far as whether they're going to build their new stadium. But we'll talk about that part about it some other time. But as far as back to the baseball, we'll see if Eloy can get a chance. Players like him And Tim Anderson, I don't think he's nowhere to be found yet, and not to make fun of him, of course, but that whole White Sox team from 3 years ago that won the division. Now, majority of those core stars barely hanging on the jobs. But I want to ask you, bringing it back home to your Chicago Cubs, Lakina. I think the prospect Shaw is expected to be your third baseman at some point this year, but there's been a rumor mill around that they were sniffing around at Yohan Moncada. Do you think that'll be a good idea to sign him to a 1-year deal to play him at third base?
I mean, if you get him for maybe the minimum or among the minimum, I would say add a lot of incentives because Moncada, we know he can't stay healthy. So I think if Jack can get him on like a nice team friendly deal, like with a lot of incentives, like I said, you got to play a certain amount of games. You'll get this many home runs and this many RBIs. I think he can definitely help in that front and perhaps maybe get an extra body in that infield. But I don't know. I mean, he might be a small risk, but a potential, I should say, high reward. So we'll see what happens with that. And I see Phil Nevin is going to be joining the White Sox staff as a special assistant in player development.
I remember him as a player. Hopefully, the White Sox will not turn into a home run hitting team again. But I digress. But going back to your Cubs, if Yohan Moncada is not an option at third base, would you go out to Alex Bregman?
I think if we can, again, it's going to be about the money. We know that Tom Riggs does not want to spend, so if he can, get him on a team front. Look, he's still out there. Bregman is, so if he can get him on a nice team friendly deal, I would say go for it. But again, are we doing this win now kind of thing, or is it still like maybe is Jed trying to keep his jobs? Is it a lame duck season for him? I don't know. So again, we'll see.
Now, realistically, before we go to break, what do you think the Cubs' next move is? I think it should be starting pitching. I don't think they'll dip in back into the free agent market. They'll have to go for it, in my opinion, via the trade. Is Seattle an option, or do you see another team where the Cubs could get another quality starter? What say you?
Well, remember they're trying. I forgot that Japanese pitcher that they're trying to get. So I guess he talked with them earlier. Earlier last week. Now, unfortunately, the Dodgers.
White Sox in on him too. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
his
yeah.
name escapes me.
Yeah. But the Dodgers are in on him. The White Sox are in on him. So that might be again. You already got a couple other Japanese players, so that might help him in his decisions. We'll see what happens there. But if they don't get him, they may have to do that. They may have to go maybe go to Seattle, perhaps maybe get somebody. Maybe I'm trying to think of another team that has a nice depth in their pitching, but. Again, like I said, I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot of moves before spring break. Spring break doesn't start for another 6 or 7 weeks. So we'll see if there are more moves coming up down the pipe for either Chicago's baseball teams.
Yeah, around Valentine's Day, February 14th, for those of you scoring at home, spring training players and catches report. Of course, the Cubs and Dodgers start a week early since they'll start the season, or I believe March the 17th, with that 2-game series in Seoul, South Korea.
South Korea, yep.
So for the Dodgers, they'll be going there for the second year in a row. The Cubs, so this will be their first trip overseas since they went to London, I believe, 3 years ago. So as of the start of next season, so we'll be on the lookout for that. All right, Lakina, last break for us right here on Sports Zone Chicago's Second City Sports. We got to talk about the college football playoff. We got to honor Ricky Henderson, Chicago born and bred. And time permitting, we'll have a special edition of Old School TV Monday. That and a whole lot more. You stick and stay right here as we're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Rewind, but 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Second City Sports. You're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, the kid here with you alone with my co-host, Miss Lakina McGee. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Kina McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
This is our last break of the show for today and before the Christmas holiday. So if you have any last minute questions or comments for us as we dive into college football playoff review, and salute to Ricky Henderson, a whole lot more, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Again, we'll get them up on the screen for you.
All right, off to the college football playoff, which so far has been a big fat as we'll start. We'll start with, of course, the Battle of Indiana. Notre Dame easily over Indiana, 27-17, and Jeremiah Love had 108 points, including a 92-yard touchdown run to kind of kick it off for Notre Dame. Now, it was a costly win, though, for the Irish as they lost Riley Mills, one of their star defensive linemen. He's out for the rest of the season, so that's going to be a big loss for the Irish defense. You know, the defense that was already kind of questionable already. But yeah, Notre Dame got the best of Indiana there. Indiana kind of played scared a little bit. That was just not a good showing by Kurt Senega and his Hoosiers.
Yeah, we knew that Indiana were outmatched and outclassed by Notre Dame, as we talked about on our show last Friday with, I guess, Mick Gillespie, that the Irish were led by their defense. And let's give Jeremiah Love some credit to the star running back for the Irish. He had 8 carries, 108 yards, and an early touchdown. But you mentioned it was the Irish defense that set the tone early. You could say that the home field advantage did kind of help them, okay, but Notre Dame just had the better talent overall. And also, too, Mr. Jordan Faison for Notre Dame stepped up, had a big game as well. 7 catches for 89 yards. So Notre Dame the world is going to get tougher for them going forward. But like you said, this win did come at a cost.
All right. The rest of the bowl games, of course, Ohio outlasted Jacksonville State in the staff DNA Cure Bowl, and Florida, no trouble with Tulsa. DJ Langway had 35 points and 3 TD passes, including a rushing TD. Looks like he's only a freshman, so his future is definitely going to be bright down there in Gainesville. Now Saturdays, the rest of these playoff games, Clemson kept it close for a little bit, but Texas was just too much for them. 38-24 there. Penn State had 2 pick sixes as they beat SMU handily 38-10, and Ohio State 42-17 were over Tennessee. And where was this during? Maybe Tennessee should have worn their Michigan uniforms, I guess. I don't know what the heck happened there. But Will Howard 311 yards, 3 TDs. Of course, Travion Henderson had a rushing TD with 80 yards for the Buckeyes. I mean, I ain't saying nothing that isn't true, but but I digress. But yeah. So with your recap as we got those 3 playoff games from Saturday.
We'll start out with the Penn State MSU game. Of course, MSU's the Mustangs' star quarterback Kevin Jennings. I know he had 195 yards passes, but in my opinion, he did not have it, and that's how Penn State got out to that 28-0 halftime lead. But on the flip side, first down, Penn State's defense, just like we talked about with Notre Dame's win last Friday, it was the table setter. And now Penn State, they can control the tempo in which they did on Saturday, but it's going to be much tougher against their next opponent. I'm not going to say MCU didn't belong in the tournament. They actually they did belong in that tournament, but they got to spend a little bit more on NIL money if they want to compete in that next level.
Well, Penn State plays SMU. Boise State, I should say, next for Penn State. That game is not going to be until New Year's Day.
That's going to be tough.
Yeah, but then again, you know what? I mean, they'll have a week to kind of like see if they can prepare for Ashton Genty. So we'll see if they're slowing him down. That's going to be the key here. So we'll see what happens with them. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit interesting there. Texas, that's going to be I mean, look, if you think about that, like I said, well, we'll talk about these games coming up. Later next week. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how kind of that works. Because Texas, they play Arizona State on New Year's Day. Ohio State gets a rematch against Oregon on New Year's Day as well next Wednesday, and also Notre Dame, they face Georgia in the All-State Sugar Bowl. So we'll see what happens. Now, I disagree with people saying that, oh, well, Alabama should have gotten in, or South Carolina should have gotten in, or blah blah blah. I mean, look, the losses and the stuff. Well, look, if y'all gonna act this way, why don't you just bring back the BCS? Just let the computers decide, I guess. But I digress.
Oh no, no, you don't.
Hey.
Just a couple of comments on the last couple of games with the Texas and Clemson contest. Yeah, it looked close on paper, but Texas were the dominant team here. Like we talked about on Friday, Clemson was going to keep it close. Cade Klubnik for Clemson had a nice performance, 3 touchdowns off of 336 yards. But when that Texas defense, especially their front four, brought pressure, I'm talking about Kluber, was nowhere to be found. But on the flip side for the Longhorns, Jaden Blue had an outstanding game, 14 carries for 146 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was the difference maker there. And I was very disappointed in Tennessee. As I said all year long, they are a top 5 ranked defense in the country. Yeah, they got served up by Georgia in the middle of the season, but they did not show up. That outburst by Ohio State, jumping out to that quick 21-0 lead, actually did the Volunteers in. I know they scored 10 points in that second quarter to make it respectable at halftime, but Ohio State never let their foot off the pedal in that second half. And that's what great teams do. So Ryan Day, he escaped for this week, but I still believe he's coaching for his job. We'll talk about it on our show next week, as they'll prepare to face Oregon in the Rose Bowl. Remember, they should have beat Oregon if you want to be 100 about it, as the kids would say early in the year when they played up in Eugene. Ohio State should have won that game, but how much of that motivation that the Buckeyes will use in preparation for the rematch next week?
We'll talk about that coming up next week. Of course, with the bowl games. There are still bowl games this week for those of you who are interested. Northern Illinois is playing right now against Fresno State in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. But first, it is threatening, so we'll keep you guys. You can watch that game on ESPN. And UTSA had no trouble with the Chanticleers. The Roadrunners beat easily over them, 45-34. 15 early in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. The Hawaii Bowl coming up tomorrow on Christmas Eve. You got South Florida and San Jose State. That's going to be at 7 o'clock on ESPN. Pittsburgh and Toledo will play in the game above Sports Bowl, which will be up in Detroit where the Lions play. The Rape Bowl between Rutgers and Kansas State, 4:30 on ESPN. That's the day after Christmas. Arkansas and Bowling Green against in the 68 Ventures Bowl. That's going to be down there in Mobile, Alabama. That is your bowl schedule for this week.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you. Let's get into college basketball. Lakina, the final line night picked up a key win on the road against Mizzou in St. Louis in the annual battle of Missouri versus Illinois. Illinois' big star came up big with two big 3-point shots and a couple of defensive stops as well. I know you said you were watching this game yesterday. I caught the last 2 minutes of it. The Illini, they were 73. Now they're 8-3 on the year. And as I said in our keys to the game last week, why they lost to Tennessee and Champaign, offensive rebounding and free throws, Illinois were dominant in those two categories yesterday as they beat Mizzou.
Yeah, a lot of free throws missed by Mizzou that could have won that game for. Although Jokonis had that go-ahead 3-pointer with I think it's still about like 10 seconds, about like 15 seconds left. So Mizzou still has a shot to win. But the second straight win in a row for Illinois in that bragging rights game. That's their last non-conference game. Of course, they continue Big Ten play coming up later this week. We'll talk about their schedule in a second here. But the rest of the games from yesterday, you got Iowa State, no trouble with Morgan State. Alabama beat Kent State easily. Mark Sears had 16 points there. Kansas, no trouble with Brown University. Zeke Mayo had 25 points. Oklahoma still undefeated. Porter Moore's got his guys playing pretty well there. They took care of Central Arkansas. Cincy over Grambling. Michigan with a nice bounce back win. After that loss to Oklahoma, they had no trouble with Purdue Fort Wayne. Illinois State with a nice win over Cornell. A lot of these teams are coming back from their break after finals. So some of them are a little bit struggling a little bit, but you look at TCU, no trouble with Montana State. Oklahoma State over Oral Roberts. LSU, no trouble with New Orleans. Georgia, no trouble with Charlotte Southern. Loyola lost a tough one over against Oakland. You got the injuries are starting to kind of pile up for them. They're starting to feel it a little bit there. That was in the Rainbow Classic Open down all the way over in Hawaii. I wonder if our girl Christine Mack, I wonder if she's over there. We'll see. I wonder if she's getting to catch some of these games. Utah State over St. Mary's. That could be a game that could decide down the line. I'm talking about March Madness. Nebraska over Murray State pretty easily in that same classic over there in the Big Island of Hawaii. Going to Saturday's games, Auburn, no trouble with Purdue over there in Indianapolis. Ohio State got a nice win against Kentucky, 85-65. Bruce Thornton had 30 points for Ohio State. They needed a big signature win, and they got it at the CBS Sports Classic over at MSG.
I had to unmute myself. Sorry. But we all know that the Big Ten is very competitive. Ohio State, I believe they were on the outside looking in on the NCAA tournament last year. So, as I said a few moments ago, Illinois, they picked up a big win in Mizzou. Now, with them, along with everybody else in the Big Ten, they have to play each other. I think you're going to have between 6 and 8 teams, again, vying for the NCAA tournament. I know Michigan's gone out to a surprising start this year. I know that MSU, Michigan State, Tom Izzo, they're going to be hanging around. Of course, Wisconsin's always there. Illinois is going to be there as well. So it's important for Ohio State to keep this up because it was a slow start to the conference schedule last year that kept them out.
Yeah, so this would definitely go a long way for them going into March in a few months. Duke, no trouble with Georgia Tech, after a bounce back after that last year, after all the weirdness that happened after that. Newble, I should say, for the Duke had 18 points. Cooper Flag had 13 for them, but a nice team win for the Blue Devils there. Florida, no trouble with North Florida. Marquette came back, but they got the best of Xavier. Oregon beats old Pac-10 and Pac-12 rival Stanford. Connecticut had to hang on, but they got the best of Butler. Gonzaga over Bucknell. Houston over A&M Corpus Christi. Ole Miss beat Queens University. That's a D3 school, folks. UCLA, loses to North Carolina, and the second, the second, actually it was the first game that CBS Sports Classic under MSG, but North Carolina got a nice win, and yeah, they definitely need that win for, if anything else, for morale. Michigan State, speaking of, they beat Florida Atlantic. Mississippi State loses to Memphis. Well, they beat Memphis, I should say. At home. Sorry to your guy Penny Hardaway. They got the Bulldogs got the best of them there.
Yeah, they're still going to be a good team. Don't talk about Memphis, but they got to find a way to beat those teams above them consistently. Before we move on to pay tribute to Ricky Henderson, did you catch the USC Lady Trojans against the UConn Women Huskies team last Saturday night?
I kind of kept I kept my eye on it. Of course, Juju Watkins helped. Of course, I'm talking about USC, but it was back and forth. It was actually Paige Beckers that led that comeback, for UConn, but they got but of course, USC held on. Of course, this is like the second time that they've had to hold on to a win. I think they beat another team earlier this year, but but a nice win for USC, and yeah, and then we'll see what happens down the line for them and their on the women's side.
I know we all get caught up in the moment and things along that nature, but Juju Watkins, as we said last year, I saw her in the tournament, and I watched the game actually earlier today right here on YouTube, obviously via the replay. But she is the Michael Jordan of college basketball right now. We talked about what Caitlin Clark did for the sport the last couple of years, but Juju Watkins, she's that chick. No disrespect when I say that. She's that chick, folks, and she's very good, and she had a great opening to the game, scoring 10 first quarter points. Not only she can drive the ball to the basket, and she can definitely shoot it like a dude from the outside. She is a great facilitator as well, just like Caitlin Clark. We talked about it last year. On the flip side, for UConn, we talked about Paige Buckets, Paige Becker. She's good as well. They have an all-around well-balanced team as well. It's not as dominant as they have. Jim Oriama has had those his rosters stacked for the last few years, but UConn is still going to be heard from. I think USC is going to be a tough out come March, but they did lead by 18. I'm talking about the Trojans before UConn came back, but it was, as we always talk about, it's the little things that make the difference between winning and losing. UConn got fouled. I forgot who the player was. They got fouled at the 3-point line. She ended up missing 2 of the 3 free throws, which cost UConn the game.
Yeah, so we'll be interested to see what happens on the line there on the women's side. Tennessee, of course, they on the men's side, the women's team, they're playing pretty well too. But the men's side, they're back in action tonight. They face Middle Tennessee. That's gonna be at 6 o'clock on SEC Network. You got the Diamond Classic going on right now in Hawaii. You got Nebraska playing the host team, Hawaii. That's at 9:30 on ESPN. You got Seattle University taking on Washington. That's gonna be at 9 o'clock. On the Big Ten Network. Let's see here. Any other games going on there? Of course, the Diamond Class, like I said, is concluding on Christmas Day. So, basically, like I said, a light schedule there because of the Christmas holiday for the men and the women too. But yeah, so your schedule for college hoops going on right now. But a lot of the teams are finishing up their conference schedule and getting ready for for some, this kind of like continuing their conference play here. We'll talk about that kind of later this week.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you as we start to wind down our show. Of course, we had tragic news over the weekend. Lakina, hometown guy, Ricky Henderson, Baseball Hall of Famer. He passed away at the age of 63. He made his debut for the Oakland Athletics on June 24th, 1979. His last MLB appearance was on September 19th, 2003 for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Here's his career MLB statistics. With a career batting average of 279, he had 3,055 hits, 297 home runs, 1,115 runs batted in, 1,406 stolen bases. He's the greatest base stealer of all time, and he scored over 2,295 runs. He played for Oakland, the Yankees, then back to Oakland, Toronto. Remember White Sox fans in the 93 playoffs? I do. And then he went back to Oakland for a third time. San Diego, Anaheim, then back to Oakland in 98. He played for the New York Mets, Seattle San Diego, Boston, and of course the Dodgers. And he served as a coach for the New York Mets in 2007. He was a 10-time All-Star, two-time World Series champion in 89 and 93, AL MVP in 1990, ALCS MVP in 1989 against Toronto, and he won his first Gold Glove in 1981. A three-time Silver Slugger Award winner in 81, 85, and 1990, and 12-time AL stolen base leader.
Yeah, he finished with 3,055 hits, holding all-time marks. He held all-time marks in steals, runs scored, and walks with 2190. Of course, that record is now held by Barry Bonds there. But you know, look, I mean, I know other people adopted him to Chicago, and even though he actually, his family actually moved to the Bay Area when he was about, I think, about 5 or 6 years old. But of course, that's been the home for him. He always traveled back and forth from Chicago. And if you saw the last game, down there in Oakland, of course, he shared that nice moment with his daughter, and of course, some of the members from that squad that won the World Series. You saw some of you guys saw some of the tributes, of course. Ozzy. Ozzy was actually one of the first people to. I know some people thought that it was the hoax that that Ricky had passed, but he posted so because they were teammates for a few years. I know I saw another tweet from Dave Winfield. They played together for a few years. Dave Henderson, I know he shared a post from him, and I saw Dennis Eckersley. Of course, they played together for years over in Oakland. They've known each other for a long time. So yeah, seeing some of the all-time greats.
Jose Canseco too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I saw Canseco's tweet too. Yeah. Of course, they were teammates for a little bit. Of course, he was part of the Bash Brothers with McGuire, and I saw McGuire post something. Of course, let out a quote there, but you saw how much he was well loved by his peers and both opponents and teammates. And look, he was one of the first guys to kind of say that talk a little bit of trash in a friendly. He was never offensive about it. He was never a big ego about it. Look, he said he's the greatest of all time. And look, he was one of the all time greats. So he bet on himself, and look, he showed that he was one of the best.
Yeah, as the kids would say, he had that swag, he had that confidence, he had the aura, he backed it up. A lot of people talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk, as Jimmy Johnson, former NFL head coach, would say. As I said in my tweet last Saturday night, he is the greatest leadoff hitter ever. If you watched closely of the AL championship series against Toronto in 89, he set the tone for that Oakland A's team in that series. You talk about the Bash Brothers just a moment ago. If Ricky Henderson didn't get on base, he couldn't let those other guys do their job, and that's how important he was in that series. And shout out to Dave Stewart as well. He had a nice tweet. Who was his teammate during those years in Oakland. So, but he did set the tone in 89. He did the same thing in 1990. I know that Cincinnati surprised them and swept them in that World Series, but he brought a different kind of attitude to that Oakland team. Remember in 88, they did not have that when they lost to the Dodgers in 5 games in that 88 World Series. But when they acquired them back in 89, Tony La Russa knew what he was doing. He knew what he needed. And so Ricky Henderson changed the face of that team, going to back-to-back World Series, which of course winning in that earthquake series in 89 against San Francisco. But Ricky Henderson was a difference maker wherever he went. He was very productive. He, like you said, he backed up his talk with his play. He had that confidence within himself, almost like Deion Sanders. He was kind of like that AJ Brzezinski, but in a higher tier. You love him as a teammate, as an opponent. Yeah, you respected him, but you hated him at the same time because he backed it up with his play. But I had all the admiration in the world for Ricky, and he'll definitely be missing. It's kind of weird and kind of sad the way the Oakland A's have left Oakland. Now they're going to be playing in Sacramento for the next 3 years, and him being there with that stadium no longer in service for A's baseball. It's kind of sad how all this has happened with that franchise. But we send out condolences to the Henderson family here at Second City Sports in Sports Zone Chicago. He'll definitely be missed.
Well, if you guys remember, someone posted this over the weekend. Remember the 93 World Series? He was the one that led off and got out. It was on second base before Joe Carter came in. Of course, had that walk-off 2-run home run that sealed that the second straight World Series for Toronto back in Game 6, in '93. And he called for time famously, and you know that if looks could kill, Mitch Williams was probably like, really. I know he said something about that during the trivias over the weekend. I know he laughs about it now because it's been over 30 years, but you can kind of wonder, like, I can understand how he But again, look, if you knew Ricky, of course, look, he faced Ricky plenty of times, so he kind of knew how he was. So you can't help but look, he had, like you said, he said the same thing Mitch did. Look, he had the swag, so he really can't fault him for that.
Yeah, he was known as the man of steel. So he was the king of the stolen bases, and he was the table setter for all the teams that he played for. And I know he didn't play as long. Of course, Ricky Henderson, let's not forget, he was inducted to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 2009. I got 94 yeah, he had 2009. He had 94% of the vote in the first ballot. But another player that unfortunately he didn't play as long, but another player, in my opinion, during that time that came close to being even 3/4 of what Ricky Henderson was, Kenny Lofton.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's up for the Hall of Fame again this year, so we'll see. Maybe if he gets some, maybe he votes to stay on the ballot at the very least. So we'll see. I mean, he doesn't get as much love because, of course, he was a standout over at Arizona in basketball. He was actually playing two sports at one point. Didn't even play on the college baseball team over there. But we'll see. I mean, look, but yeah, look, R.I.P. to the late great Ricky Henderson. And I know thinking about his wife and 3 daughters. Like I said, he was with one of his daughters during one of those last games over in Oakland. Kind of bittersweet now that ended up being in one of his last appearances.
Yeah, it's not, and it's not part of Old School TV Monday, but I watched this last night. And shout out to the YouTube channel. This is where you find baseball. They reposted the episode of Ricky Henderson Legends from Comcast Sportsnet at the time, Bay Area, from a few years ago. So if you get a chance, just type up Ricky Henderson Legends. It's the full 50-minute episodes on YouTube. Check it out. I watched it last night. It was very phenomenal special that Comcast Sportsnet Bay Area did a few years ago. So check it out when you get a chance on YouTube.
I think I remember watching that a couple of years ago. Now they actually have a Sports Century up on YouTube as well that ESPN did, of course, for going into the turn of the century. Of course, I think his aired, I think like 2000, like late 2000 or something like that. So yeah, check that out on YouTube as well. They kind of go really in depth, about his background and his family leaving Chicago, going to the Bay Area that actually became his home for all these years.
All right. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina here with you. Now we'll end this show on a happier note. Of course, this is our last show before the Christmas holiday, and of course, wrapping up every Monday show. We'll give you Old School TV Monday, and with the reruns and potentially bad games coming up, we like to go back and have a little nostalgia. And speaking of YouTube, you can watch many of these episodes on YouTube as well. Today, we will salute the longtime ESPN primetime show called NFL Primetime. That's right. NFL Primetime was a sports television program that aired on ESPN in its debut in 1987. The original format was aired from 1987 until 2005 with Robin Roberts, Chris Berman, and Tom Jackson. The show was presented similarly to ESPN's Sports Center, featuring scores, highlights, and analysis of every NFL game for that week. When it debuted in 1987, the show aired every Sunday night during the NFL season. When NBC acquired the rights for Sunday night games beginning in 2006, NBC also negotiated for exclusive rights and extended highlights during its Football Night in America pregame show, causing ESPN to begin airing NFL primetime on Mondays. In 2019, the program was moved to ESPN Plus.
Yeah, I think also they have it on Hulu as well. So, it was a great highlight show, long before the other, NBC, brought back, Sunday night, brought Sunday Night Football. They showed the highlights. ESPN was doing that, and there was a little kind of a cool little bridge between, between the afternoon games and of course the primetime games. Of course, the primetime games had become a thing on Sundays until, like you said, in the late 90s going to the 2000s. So that was a nice little bridge, there in between. So, Robert Roberts there for a few years. Of course, the most famous duo, was Chris Berman, Boomer, and, of course, Tom Jackson. Of course, over the years, they had other, folks doing it. Trey Wingo did it for a little bit. Steve Young did it for a little bit. I think Booger McFarland does it now, and Jeff Saturday too. So, on ESPN Plus and also Hulu. So, you can still show it, but nothing beats how it was, back in the day. Of course, Boomer had his catchphrases and whatnot. So, that was actually a really cool time, and good times.
Yeah, Ben Winter Colts, John Groove Theory from the Chicago Bears.
Yes. Oh gosh.
And Chris Carter, all he does is catch touchdowns.
Touchdowns. Yep. Yeah. So you have to go on for days. I think a lot, like I said, I think a lot of those episodes are still on YouTube. So
Yes, they are.
again, yeah, again with all the stuff coming up, of course, if the basketball games become boring, or they're going to be a bunch of repeats. You can always watch Christmas stories so many times. You can check it out on YouTube.
And Home Alone too.
Oh yeah. Oh god. Oh yeah. Yes. Oh god. But so you can check it out. Check all those episodes out on YouTube.
Yes, and as Lakina mentioned, all the new episodes of ESPN Primetime could be seen on ESPN Plus with Berman and Anthony Booker. Finally, as you just mentioned, Lakina, just a quick story. I remember I had to beg my mother to watch ESPN Primetime because remember back in those days when Sunday Night Football was becoming a thing. Remember until 1998. The Sunday Night Football schedule was split between TNT and ESPN. Of course, ESPN got full control of it in 1998 until 2005. I had to ask my mother. Some days it worked, some days it didn't. Because we had a couple of TVs in our house, but the living room was, of course, had cable. If she had to watch something, I couldn't watch it. But until I got out and started working, I could watch it. Of course, when I got to college, and of course when I started working, I had to pay for the cable bill before moving out on my own. I was happy to watch it every. I was like, I don't have to. When I became an adult and I started working, and I had to beg my mom to watch it anymore because I was paying for it, and I could watch it in my own free will, and I didn't have to go beg her before I went to college to watch it. But someone said this the other day, and it holds true to this day. The original ESPN Primetime, it was NFL Red Zone before NFL Red Zone. The difference was it was a recap show. NFL Red Zone gives you the plays airing it live as it's going on. ESPN Primetime was the highlight show. It was NFL Red Zone before its time, but it was a recap of the shows that you see now on YouTube and other places.
Yeah, you kind of say the NFL Prime, like NFL Red Zone. What NFL Primetime watch the NFL Red Zone could run? So I think Scott Hansen, I'm sure, he'll tell you that. Yeah, a lot of that, well, especially now, of course, he does a great job. Of course, now the commercial stuff. I know people are kind of getting a little bit pissed about that, but well, that's a different conversation for another time. But yeah, I think nothing beats the first time you saw NFL Prime Time. Nothing will beat the original. So, like I said, so a lot of stuff's still on YouTube. Still, I think I saw one. I think recently. From like 94, I think, week like 2 or something like that. So yeah, so all the episodes on YouTube, you're feeling nostalgia about, so it's all right there.
Yeah, so for the holiday edition of Second City Sports for Old School TV Monday, we select the original ESPN NFL Prime Time. Lakina, close us out.
Well, a couple of notes here real quick. Of course, Michael Vick is now the new head coach of Norfolk State.
Yes.
Football. Yes. You just his threads. They did the presser a few hours ago, looking good in the green and white and gold there, and it makes sense because look, he's from the area, so he can definitely help recruit. And look, Eddie George, is still doing it well over there in Tennessee State. So sure, and of course your Coach Prime doing it over there in Colorado too. So. Yeah, I'm a little surprised he didn't do this for Old School TV Monday. And, it's the 52nd anniversary of the Immaculate Reception, of course. With the Steelers, of course, the late great Freckle Harris and that great catch against the Raiders. Yeah, that was I just saw a clip of that. Just saw a clip of that too. You actually still watch that game in the full because usually they just had the NFL Films version. Now they got the video version. So you can tell it's like yes, he did have control of the ball, but
there was a whole lot of rule changes back then that like I said that set up for what we have now. So rules were very different back then.
Yeah, 1972, boy, good times. With that said, you follow my Kingdom McGee on the Twitter, execute again the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and Twitter X in the IG at CK80. Once again, at CK80, that's SIDKID80, SIDKID. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at Warp Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are located on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're ready, give Warp Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And of course, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere on the Facebook and YouTube channels. Of course, our new buddy Atmos is there. Atmos is, if you're still listening and watching us, make sure you tell your friends about the show, and of course, on all the great content we got going on Sports Zone Chicago.
All right, and as we leave you, we all know that this is a very challenging time for some folks during the holiday season. It's a very happy time for most of us during the holiday season, but wherever you fall into, I should say, be grateful for the things that you have. The things that you don't have, it may not be that important. The most important thing is your health, family, and a great perspective, and just practice gratitude like I try to do every day. So we all know that the holiday times we worry about gifts and people going to debt and all that. I won't get into a whole little rant, but the little things are important. Your health, you have a good home, you have heat, you have great food and great family and great friends and a great support system around you. So the real people that are with you or behind you, those are the ones that count. All the other stuff just goes by the wayside. So be thankful for what you have during this holiday season, because there are less people fortunate than you. So think about that as well during this holiday season.
Yeah, like you said, so I mean, this is a tough, for some people, loneliness and things like that. They think about people that are no longer with them. So yeah, so keep those folks in your thoughts and prayers too as well during this holiday season.
Yes.
All right, but look, Merry Christmas. Be safe out there. I know it's gonna be a wet Christmas here in our region, here in the Midwest. So just be careful out there, and of course, don't do anything stupid. Enjoy all the sports. Of course, you've got. NFL, you're gonna have Christmas games in the NFL. You got NBA. That's not gonna go over well with some people, and also too a whole lot more. So we will be back on Friday to preview the week 17 of the NFL, and of course, we'll recap Seahawks and Bears. Yay! And
the NFL on the Netflix. We'll definitely talk about that.
Oh gosh, it's gonna be interesting there. We'll see what happens with all the coverage there. But yeah, so much more still. So yeah, we'll be back on Friday to talk about it all. For Sid Alakina, Merry Christmas, season's greetings, happy holidays. It's been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We'll see you guys on Friday.
Happy holidays, holla!